How's it going, guys? Welcome to Minimize Media. I'm your host James, and welcome to the follow-up video of my playthrough of the remake of MediEvil. Now, I sort of said at the start of the playthrough, or maybe it was towards the end, I can't remember, or both, that I wanted to do not like a comparison video, but I wanted to talk about both versions now that I've played them both on the channel. And it's one of those games that I grew up with, so it was sort of this big nostalgic factor to it, and there was a lot like in it for me. Like, I really enjoyed the original a lot, so to be able to play it on the channel was awesome, and then to have this remake and be able to play that on the channel as well, I just thought it's a great opportunity for me to really like look back at both versions of it and sort of weigh up the pros and cons. What do I prefer about each version of it? And that's essentially what this video is about. Now, I don't want to bog down too much in the sort of the nitty gritty of every little bit. I just want to talk about like the main points that I think about the game and the original game, and comparing them both. I don't want to do too much of a comparison because there's a massive generational gap. The original coming out on the original PlayStation and the new one being on the PlayStation 4. There's such a massive leap in technology and graphical updates and all those kind of things. So I'm not going to be too harsh of a judge or anything like that, because it's not really my place to do anything like that, I don't think. I don't know enough about that kind of stuff anyway to even have an opinion on that kind of thing. But I just want to point out some of the key factors that I take away from the games. First of all, I'm going to start with a massive pro, which is, man, the graphics are just beautiful. They're gorgeous, absolutely stunning. It is literally like being sucked in to a Tim Burton animated movie. You know, I can't remember what you call it now, claymations? You know, like Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, that kind of film. And I love those kind of films. They're so like endearing and adorable. And the remake really feels like you're sucked into that kind of movie. The way that everyone moves, the way everyone interacts, just the sound effects, the way the zombies look, the way Dan looks, the way Sir Daniel Fortescue, should I say, the way he looks, it's straight out of a Tim Burton movie. And that, to me, as a Tim Burton fan, is just excellent. I loved that element of the game. It was so much fun. The way the levels look, I think, is such a really great advancement for it. It just really brings the levels to life, I think. When you go into like Pumpkin Gorge in the original, it's supposed to have all this sort of dense vine and like everything's supposed to be covered in sort of tendrils and like weirdness. It's like, it's roots, isn't it? Like all over the place. I think in the remake they really emphasize that, and it really feels earthy, if that makes sense. There's a real sort of viney feel to that level. It's really cool. The enemies look awesome. I love the way the enemies look. The bosses especially. When you get to the stained glass demon, wow. I mean, I still think the stained glass demon in the original looks great, but he looks so cool in this one. The Pumpkin King, when he turns into the weird squishy hamburger thing at the end. Absolutely brilliant. Really loved it. What other boss was there? I can't remember now. I'm just doing this video, should I say. I'm just doing it on the fly, do you know what I mean? I don't like to have too much preparation, otherwise it feels really like stilted and horrible, and I just like throwing stuff out there, if you know what I mean. But I think all the enemies, the zombies look cool. I think I loved the boatman. He was really nice looking. Oh, another pro. I don't know if this is a pro or not. I'd like you guys to let me know in the comments about this, actually. What do you think of them using the original audio for the characters? I've heard somewhere that they felt it was maybe a bit lazy, and they were just sort of, instead of re-recording them or having different voice actors or anything like that to play all the Hall of Heroes characters, and to play the boatman, and to play the town mayor and King Peregrine and stuff like that, and most importantly the gargoyles on the walls, to have the original voices in it. I've heard two sides. I've heard one, that it was a bit lazy, and if they wanted to put more effort into it, they should have re-recorded it and used either the same voice actors or different voice actors entirely, because that was the whole point of a remake. That's just one side. That's not my opinion. That's just one side. The other side is that they love it because it sort of... I think this is the more of the nostalgia talking. When you hear those original voices again, it sort of makes your heart flutter. It makes you think of the original. It takes you back to playing the original game. And there's such great, like, acted such great parts that they voiced anyway. I don't know what I'm saying now. The original voices, the original audio for it is so good. So especially in the Hall of Heroes. It's so much fun to hear, like, Stanya Ryan Hewer and the way he's so, like, and Woden the Mighty, who's like, oh, you know? It's so endearing in the first place. It's so beautifully done anyway that maybe it wasn't worth redoing them because they're so good. Do you know what I mean? Those are the two sides of the story that I've heard. I lean more towards this side. I like the original audio anyway, and I think it adds that, I don't know, it keeps the nostalgia alive in the game. Not that the game isn't riddled with it being what it is, the whole creation of it. But I love the original voice acting in it, so to keep the original I thought was a really, really cool, nice thing. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Did you want remade audio? Did you want it to be a full remake with a whole new set of things? Or did you want, did you love the original audio in it? Let me know. Two things as well that I thought were mind-blowingly good. Absolutely brilliant additions. Stuff that the original, that are better than the original, like by far. The first one is the Book of Gallowmere. What an excellent little addition that is to the game. Learning about all the enemies and little backstories here and there. Like, learning how people, like, was it King Peregrine? I'm sure it was King Peregrine that died because he choked on a Brussels sprout. The fact that I know that is hilarious. It's so funny. And you learn that because of the Book of Gallowmere. It's such a great little addition to be able to get the enemies and then just look down and hear the little backstory on them and hear the little, like, one-liners and stupid, like, puns, like, to get across their characters. It's absolutely, I loved it. Absolutely. Probably my favourite thing about the remake, Book of Gallowmere. Yeah, definitely. Because it gives you that little in-depth to all the little characters. Even the rats. When you go into the sleeping village, even the rats and the little hands in the graveyard, they're all in the Book of Gallowmere. Absolutely brilliant. And it's so much fun. You learn about the stained glass demon. You learn about the dragon when you go to the crystal caverns. You learn about you even learn about the dragon elephants that are in the sunken town of Mellowmead. You know, when you go under the swirlpool and it all freezes, which by far was one of my favourite bits in the whole game. But we'll get to that. You learn about the dragon elephants in there, and they had a super ridiculous long name. But the Book of Gallowmere was an amazing addition. To carry on from that, the narration of all the books, all the text, and of the Book of Gallowmere, outstanding. So good, like 10 out of 10. Like, the lady who does it is hilarious. So funny. Her delivery of the lines genuinely had me in stitches. It's just hilarious. Like, because obviously in the original, especially when you go to the Sleeping Village, and there's all the backstory stuff that you can read about how the war came to be, the war in Gallowmere, and what Zarok means to the king, and like all the little nooks and crannies of how the war started, and little backstories of all the members of the Hall of Heroes. You obviously had to read all this stuff in the original, which I don't mind, sort of. I'm not the greatest reader, but I don't mind. But to have that bit of narration, like, tell it to you like that, and in such a brilliant, hilarious, endearing kind of way, I absolutely loved that. I thought that was an amazing addition to the game. Brilliant. Book of Gallowmere and the female, the lady who did all the narration, absolutely brilliant, loved it. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of nitty gritty at least. Let's talk about the weapons, because in the remake, I think the weapons look awesome. The magic sword just looks mad. The way it like glistens and it's got like little bits of sort of magic mist coming off of it. The dragon armor looks beautiful. The gold shield looks excellent. All the weapons, they look really nice. Like I can't praise how they look, but that sort of goes into the graphics again. I think the graphics are beautiful of it. And that really ties into the weapons. However, and again, I want to know your guys' opinion in the comments below, but for me personally, I think the weapons in the original are better. I think one big example for me is the Warhammer. In the original game, I love using the Warhammer and getting a big smash, you know, like, and getting that big burst of electricity, that big ball of energy when you do the big hammer smash. It felt so good, and the way it whooshed zombies away in the original, I thought that was really, really awesome. It feels like the Warhammer in general feels like it has big impact. In the remake, I don't think it does. When you come down, it might just, I don't know if it was just the way I was playing it, but I don't think so. I think when you hit with the Warhammer, excuse me, when you hit with the Warhammer in the remake, it doesn't have that weight to it. It doesn't have that big boom that I want from the Warhammer. I want it to crash down and squish my enemies in the game. And in the original, it most certainly does that. But in the remake, not so much. I think the swords are pretty good. I like the swords. I like especially the magic sword when it keeps everything at bay. That's my favourite weapon in the game, easy. But like being able to keep everything at bay with a magic sword is cool. But the original does that. So that's not a massive amount of a merit for the game. I think the actual weight behind the weapons is way better, in my personal opinion, way better in the original. Platforming. Now, MediEvil's not a platform game. I get that. And there's one specific bit in it's in Pumpkin Gorge, isn't it? Where you've got to jump on these little toadstools and they sort of rise up. And in the original, that is an issue. I died just walking up to the edge. I think you don't feel like you're in control of Daniel when you're jumping in the original, and it's not something I feel like they fixed. I don't know if they just left it in on purpose or they've accidentally. I just don't think the platforming's very good in it. Like, I don't feel like when I'm jumping across to other things, Pools of the Ancient Dead, that level, man, like, I get it. I suck a little bit at games. But you've got to admit, if you've played it, again, let me know in the comments, you've got to admit that the platforming in it is just off. It's just off. But it is in the original, so I can't, like, slate the remake for that too much. But the platform is just a pain in the butt. It's just a pain in the butt. I don't feel like I'm getting over to the other side. But it's not a platform game, so I suppose we'll let it slide. Okay, so let's talk about the big thing for me in the remake, which is as you're playing through, you get to the entrance hall of Zarok's lair, and there's a chest. And you open the chest, and it says, unleash all the lost souls. Sir Daniel Fortescue, can you collect all the lost souls and set them free and, you know, be the real hero of Galamere? When I got to that bit, I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea what to think. And I still sort of don't. I think it's such a great idea. Like, going up and retrieving a soul and then setting it free somewhere else in the land of Galamere. It's really cool. And some of the actual little, like, tidbits of story that you got from it was really, really awesome. I am going to say it, though. It does get a wee bit tedious. A little bit tedious having to jump back and forth between all the levels. And granted, I did when I did collect all the souls, I did them in a really weird order, which didn't make sense. I should have just gone from the entrance hall to Sleeping Village, got the one from Sleeping Village, and then jumped from there. I would have got every single one in that way. But it still feels like, okay, let's go back to that level. Let's look for this. Let's look for that. Some of the tasks were really, really cool. Like when you were in the Hilltop Mausoleum collecting all the sheet music, even though I missed that one piece of sheet music that was on that little grave, which was a pain. Again, that's my fault. But I did like the little story behind it. I loved the one where somebody fell into the lake which is the first one you get, isn't it? Fell into the lake in the Sleeping Village, and you have to go and set them free. And it was really cool that, like, enemies that normally aren't in that level are now in it because you've set that soul free. That's a really cool little bit. Like, I'm not gonna slate the Lost Souls bit too much, because it's a really cool idea, and I like some of it. I like a lot of it, especially when you go to the witch's coven and they call in the pest control, and it shrinks you down to size, and you've got to fight the ants in behind the bookcase when you destroy the bookcase under the what do you call it? The hilltop, the hilltop side, but just before you get to the Hilltop Mausoleum. You go under there and you become tiny. That was mint. That was really, really cool. I liked that edition of it. But it did get a little bit tedious. There was one part when you get to the sunken town of Mellowmead, and it was just like, you've got to destroy this rat that's interrogating the poor giant dragon elephant, which is like, oh no. And then it had like 99999 health. And I was... oh, again, this is my fault. I was looking around the level for this giant rat. And what was it? It was down there in the water, and the rat was that big, and I killed it with like 1 or 2 slams. Now, again, that was quite... I suppose that was quite funny. It's quite a silly little, like, oh, he's a big, scary, evil rat, and actually it's not, because, you know, obviously the whole cliche is that the elephants are scared of rats, and it was supposed to be a small rat and blah, blah, blah. That was a cool little addition. I did like the little bits of it, but I did feel like sometimes I was completing every single level like 3 times. I mean, the souls weren't too hard to find, but it just felt like back and forth, back and forth. I felt like a pinball going all the way through Gallowmere, which I suppose I could see why you would like that. I think it just got a little bit too much for me, that I was playing the whole game again. It might have been because I was recording it for videos. If I was doing it for just like casually playing it, maybe it's not so bad, but I felt like I had to just revisit a lot of stuff, and I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about it. Did you really enjoy the Lost Souls part of the game? Again, I think it's a really good addition, and I like it, and I wouldn't take it out necessarily. I don't know how I'd fix it. I'm not a game developer, you know, but let me know what you guys think. I enjoyed some of it, but felt it was a little bit tedious, maybe. Just let me know what you think. I will say, though, one of the biggest things for me, and it might sound silly, I don't know. I'm just going to say it anyway, and again, I just want to know what you guys think. I think the atmosphere of the original is better. What do I mean by that? There's something a little bit creepier, a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more grimier about the original. It feels more medieval. It feels like medieval, but I mean that in a literal sense. It feels older and dirtier. It feels like I'm trekking through a forsaken land, a destroyed land. It feels grimier, and the remake, it doesn't have that, like, that dark atmosphere that I get from the original game. I know what I'm saying in my head, I just can't convey it properly. There's something about the original that just feels grittier and dirtier, and I think that's the whole point of the game. That is that it's I don't know, it's a dirty place to live, Galamere, because it's way back in the whatever 1600s or whatever it's supposed to be based in. and it just feels more desperate. It feels dirty. It feels like when you go into the asylum, it just feels all grotty and horrible. And I just think that maybe it's because of the graphics, I just don't think that the spooky, as childish as it is, the spooky atmosphere of the game, I don't think it's there. And I think in the original it is. It's got this spooky sort of like Goosebumps edge to it, if you know what I mean. There's this sort of childlike horror aspect to it, only a little bit, but I don't think it's there in the remake. Excuse me. And that's quite a big deal breaker for me, which is a bit weird. I'll say this. Now I've completed the remake, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Don't get me wrong, I thought it was ace. I really, really loved playing it, especially on the channel. It's been ace. But now that it's done, I don't feel like there's a massive need to go back. And at least at the moment, I don't think there's a massive need for me to go back and replay it eventually down the line. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like in a couple of months' time, or a year, or 2 years, or whatever the case may be, I don't feel like there's going to be a time where I go, I really fancy playing the remake of MediEvil. Whereas, I always get this little, if I see a video of it on Facebook or on Instagram, or if I see it in my game collection, if I see the original, I always think to myself, oh yeah, I could definitely boot that up right now and play that right now. Like, in my sort of casual time right now, I could easily just play the original right now. It's such a wonderful game. Like, the original game is, I can't praise it enough. There are flaws. It's a PlayStation 1 game, for God's sake. But there's something so beautiful about that game. I love it to absolute bits. And I'm not going to get that feeling. I don't think, at the moment, anyway, that could change. But at the moment, I don't feel like I'm going to get that sort of feel from the remake. I don't think it's going to be one I'm going to revisit. I don't know. I want to know what you guys think. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put both in front of you right now, and just, when I look at both covers, I think one looks great, and one gives me a funny feeling. So if I just do that, looks awesome, looks great, brilliant, love that. It's really cool. Dan does look awesome in the game, I will say that. But if I do that, I don't know, man. I think it's the nostalgia talking. Because I've played that game for so many years now, for so long, that when I see that cover, when I see a level or a boss or a snippet or even a screenshot, I just get all these silly nostalgic feelings come over, and I just think, oh, I love that game, I want to play it right now. I am definitely going to get that. I'm not going to get that, excuse me, from the remake. But having said that, spoiler alert, if you collect all the souls, you get the original game anyway. So, to that end, do I think it's worth buying? If you've played the original, yeah, it's worth buying. Just to get your own take on how they've advanced it, what the graphical differences are, just to get a nostalgic buzz out of it like I have. It's a very enjoyable game in its own right. If it came out now on its own merit, I think it would be an amazing game with an amazing art style. The fact it's a remake of an already brilliant game is good enough, I think. So, if you've already played the original and are thinking about playing it, yeah, get it. If you haven't played the original, before I did the Lost Souls bit, I was dead set on going, if you haven't played the original and you're thinking about getting the remake, I was going to say to you, get the original, because I just feel like it's better. Like, I would say it's worth just getting the original. I don't think the remake stands up as good as the original, I think. Just my personal opinion, again. But then we collected all the souls, and the original blooming game is in it. So even if you haven't played it before, yes, I highly recommend that you get it, play through it, and then eventually play the original, because you'll be able to do that comparison yourself. You might enjoy the remake more than the original, especially if you haven't played it before. It might be, I don't know, you might not like PlayStation 1 graphics and stuff like that. A lot of people don't. A lot of people say they've not aged well. I personally disagree when it comes to certain games, but of MediEvil especially. I want to know what you think. Like, if you've played the original MediEvil, do you think the remake is worth it? Please let me know that. I'd love to know. And if you haven't played it and are playing it now or thinking about it, what do you think of it? You know? I had a blast with the game. I think it's really, really cool. I think it's a great game. If the original didn't come out, this game would be a fun, wonderful game in its own right. Like, the fact that it's attached to this classic just makes everything better. Yeah, so, like, I suppose in conclusion to that kind of thing, I'd say I loved it, and I highly recommend that you just get it and play it, no matter if you've played the original or not. And that's it, guys. Thank you for joining me in this video. I really wanted to get this sort of synopsis of the whole thing out of the way, because MediEvil's been such a big part of my channel since you know, its inception a year ago, and I wanted to get this out of the way and really do a nice comparison on both things. If you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoyed any of the playthroughs, then please support the channel by hitting the subscribe button, and once you have, hit the notification bell. That way you stay notified when new videos come out. In the description below is the playthroughs of both the remake of MediEvil and the original MediEvil that I've done on the channel. I'd be super grateful if you go and check those out. If you want to do a comparison and you want to use my videos to do that, I'd be very grateful if you did that. My name's James, and I'm your host here at Minimize Media. Remember to always take it easy.